I always believed that some things were better left unknown, until I stumbled across a secret that changed everything. It wasn't something I went looking for. In fact, if I could turn back time, I would give anything to erase that moment. It started like any other ordinary day, coffee in hand, scrolling through my phone, not expecting the world around me to shift in ways I couldn't undo. But life has a strange way of pulling you toward the things you're not ready for. It all began with a message, short, harmless at first glance. But behind those few words was a truth that had been carefully hidden, a truth someone never intended for me to find out. And once you see something, you can't unsee it. That's when the doubts crept in, the questions I couldn't stop asking myself. Who could I trust? How long had this been kept from me? And most importantly, what else was hidden beneath the surface of the life I thought I knew so well? The more I tried to ignore it, the deeper it pulled me in. Like a thread hanging loose on a sweater, the more I tugged, the more everything started to unravel. I didn't know it then, but that one discovery would push me into a world of secrets, lies, and choices I never imagined I'd have to make. Every step forward felt like walking a little deeper into a maze with no way out. And just when I thought I had reached the end of it, when I believed there was nothing left to uncover, that's when I found out the most devastating part of all. A truth so heavy, it would change my life forever. But that's where this story really begins. Looking back, I guess the signs were always there. Little things that didn't quite add up, moments that felt off but were easy to brush aside. You tell yourself you're just overthinking, that people are complicated, and that maybe it's better not to dig too deep. I used to believe that. I used to think that love, friendship, and trust was strong enough to survive anything. But trust can be the easiest thing to give, and the hardest thing to fix once it's broken. The secret started with someone I thought I knew better than anyone, someone I trusted without question. We had built years of memories together, shared laughter, dreams, even fears. That's what made everything so much harder. Because when a stranger betrays you, you get angry. But when someone close hides something from you, it shakes the ground beneath your feet. It makes you wonder if you ever knew them at all. The days after finding out were the worst. Every conversation felt loaded. Every smile seemed fake. I would catch myself replaying old memories, searching for clues I had missed, wondering how blind I had been. I felt trapped between wanting to confront them and being terrified of what else I might find out if I did. It's strange how silence can scream louder than words when you're living with a truth you can't unlearn. The tension grew, pressing down on me every second. I could feel it even in the small things, the way they avoided eye contact, the way conversations drifted into awkward pauses. I kept asking myself, should I let it go and pretend I didn't know? Or should I tear open wounds that might never heal? But deep down, I think I already knew. This secret was only the beginning. At first, I tried convincing myself that maybe it wasn't as bad as it seemed. Maybe there was an explanation, something that would make sense if I just gave it time. But the more I waited, the more cracks started to show. Late-night phone calls that ended the second I walked into the room, whispers behind closed doors, even small lies about where they had been. It all started piling up, each piece fitting into a puzzle I didn't want to see completed. I found myself pulling away without even meaning to. I stopped answering calls right away, made excuses to avoid meeting up, and spent long nights overthinking everything. It felt like living two lives, the one where I smiled and acted normal, and the one where I stayed up until 3 in the morning questioning everything I knew. The worst part was, I couldn't talk to anyone about it. How do you tell someone that your whole world feels like it's crumbling because of something you're not even supposed to know? The deeper I fell into the truth, the more isolated I became. And that's when other things started coming to light. Friends acting distant, conversations I wasn't invited into anymore, pieces of information that didn't match up. It was like finding out the secret had poisoned everything around me, not just one relationship but all of them. I started wondering if the secret had been the center of a web I had never noticed before, and now that I had tugged on the wrong thread, the whole thing was unraveling. Everywhere I turned, there was another layer to uncover, Another person who wasn't quite who I thought they were. Another lie that cut a little deeper. I kept thinking, how far did this go? And what would happen if I kept pushing? It all reached a point where pretending wasn't an option anymore. The weight of everything I had learned, everything I had pieced together, was getting too heavy to carry. I could barely look them in the eyes without feeling sick. Every laugh sounded hollow. Every promise felt like a joke I wasn't in on. The world I had built with them, the trust I had given so freely, felt like it was slipping through my fingers, no matter how tightly I tried to hold on. One night, I found myself standing outside their house, heart racing, hands shaking. I hadn't planned to be there, but something inside me just pulled me toward it. That desperate need for answers, for the truth to finally be spoken out loud. I could see the light glowing faintly behind the curtains. I could hear muffled voices, and then something that made my blood run cold. My name, whispered like a warning, like a secret too dangerous to say out loud. I pressed myself closer, straining to hear more, but all I caught were fragments. Pieces of conversations that didn't make sense, but confirmed everything I feared. They knew I had found out. And worse, they were already planning what to do about it. The panic set in fast, wrapping around my chest so tight I could barely breathe. Should I confront them right then and there? Should I walk away and pretend I hadn't heard anything? I stood there frozen, caught between the person I had always been, trusting, forgiving, and the person this secret had forced me to become. Every instinct screamed that whatever choice I made next would change everything. But what I didn't realize in that moment was that the biggest betrayal hadn't even been revealed yet. And once it was, there would be no going back. Just when I thought I had heard everything, something happened that turned my entire world upside down. As I backed away from a house, heart pounding, I caught sight of someone across the street. At first, I thought it was just a neighbor. But as I looked closer, I realized it was someone I hadn't seen in months. Someone I thought had quietly disappeared from my life without explanation. Someone who, as it turned out, was never really gone. They were standing there, half hidden by the shadows, watching the house just like I was. And the look on their face told me everything. They knew too. They knew the secret. Maybe even more than I did. For a second, our eyes met, and there was this silent understanding between us. Nothing about this was an accident. I wasn't just uncovering a mistake or a lie. I had stepped into something much bigger than I could have imagined. Suddenly, the questions doubled. Had I been manipulated from the start? Was I just a piece in a bigger plan? Every conversation, every moment of trust, flashed through my mind in a different light. I realized I wasn't just fighting for the truth anymore. I was fighting to figure out how deep the betrayal ran, how many people were involved, and how long I had been living inside a lie. The stakes were no longer about a broken friendship or a damaged relationship. It was about facing the fact that my whole reality might have been carefully built around keeping me in the dark, and the people I thought I could still trust. I wasn't so sure anymore. I knew one thing for sure: the real secret hadn't even fully surfaced yet, and the worst part was, I was already too far in to walk away. I knew I couldn't run anymore. I had to face it, whatever it was. I crossed the street slowly, my mind racing, heart ready to burst out of my chest. The person from my past didn't say a word, just nodded toward the house, as if telling me it was time. I stepped onto the porch, every muscle in my body tight with fear, and knocked on the door. For a second, everything was silent. Then the door creaked open, and there they were, the person I trusted most, staring back at me like they had seen a ghost. Without thinking, I stepped inside. The air felt heavy, like even the walls were holding their breath. And that's when the final pieces started falling into place. They didn't try to deny it. They didn't even act surprised. Instead, they led me to the kitchen table where a folder sat, already open, waiting for me. Inside were photos, documents, messages, proof that the life I thought I had built was never really mine. It had all been planned. From the day we met, every moment had been carefully designed to keep me in a certain place, trusting the wrong people, looking away from the truth. The worst part, it wasn't just one person. It was almost everyone. Friends, co-workers, even people I had once considered family. They had all played a part. And for what? To protect a secret bigger than I ever imagined. One that tied back to things that had happened long before I ever got involved. Just when I thought I had seen the worst of it, the final twist hit me. The person I thought had been helping me, the one who watched from the shadows that night, they weren't on my side either. They had been keeping an even bigger secret, and I was the last one to find out. In that moment, everything fell painfully into place. The person from the shadows wasn't there to warn me or protect me. They were there to make sure I didn't dig too deep, to control the story I thought I was uncovering. It wasn't about loyalty. It was about power, about making sure the truth stayed hidden, or at least twisted enough that I could never fully piece it back together. I had been a pawn in something much bigger than betrayal. I had been part of a game I didn't even know I was playing. After that night, I walked away from everything, the friendships, the ties, a life I thought I had built. It wasn't easy, it still isn't. Some days, the loneliness feels louder than ever. But there's also a strange kind of peace that comes from knowing the truth, even when it's messy and painful. I realized that sometimes the people we trust most are the ones who are best at hiding their true intentions. And sometimes, the secret we wish we never knew is the one that sets us free. Looking back, I don't regret finding out. I needed to see it for what it was, even if it broke me for a while. It taught me to listen to my gut, to notice the little things that don't feel right, and to never hand my trust over so easily again. The story didn't end the way I wanted it to. But maybe that's the real lesson. Not every story has a perfect ending. Some just leave you stronger, wiser, and a little more careful with the pieces of yourself you choose to give away. And maybe, just maybe, that's not such a bad thing after all.